And here we go. The Ten Commandments. Yesterday and the day before, we began discussing the Ten Commandments. The first of the Ten Commandments is to worship only God. I am God that took you out of Egypt. And of course, it's the same God who gave the Torah, because that's the Ten Commandments, is the Torah. God is speaking to them. So saying, I, the one who's giving the Torah, and the same God who took you out of Egypt. And because everybody felt that the voice of God was coming from every atom in the world, and from the inside, the outside, from four directions, from above and from below. So they also felt what God was just going to say in the fourth of the Ten Commandments, that God creates the heavens and the earth. Okay, so let's go. The first three commandments we did, and that is that God is one. God cares about us. He creates the heaven and the earth. He gave the Torah. That's the only God that you can believe in, that God. So the first commandment is believe only in God. The God of the Jews, he's the God that's creating the world. There is no other God. There is no other existence. There is no other being. Everything that exists, God is creating it. That is, believe in that God, number one. Number two, prohibition. Don't worship anything else. Don't make up on your own that there's something else that's worthy of worship, because everything else is just a creation. All the stars, all the people, all the powers, all the spirits, they're just creations. And it's forbidden for anyone to worship a creation. Not only the Jews, also the non-Jews. There's what's called 7 Noahide commandments, and that's one of them. Worship only the Creator and don't worship anything else. That's included in one. Commandment number 3. That also includes what we said, don't make any statues of any idols, and don't bow down to the idols, even if you don't believe in them. Next, don't take the name of God in vain. If you stub your toe, don't say, God something. Unless you're praying, God saved my toe. That's okay. God saved the queen, 100%. You can say that, no problem. But don't take the name of God in vain. This is especially talking about taking an oath, a false oath in the name of God. I swear I don't owe you a penny. I swear to God, I don't owe you anything. You're lying. You do owe him. It says taking God's name in vain is very, very severe. Why? Because God wants us to serve him and not to be, he's the master, he's the king, he's the creator. Don't just go throwing his name around. We're going to see something very interesting from the Kli Yakar about how the second 5 commandments correspond to the first commandment. We'll see. Anyway, these first 5 commandments, they are between man and God. Worship only God. Don't worship anything else. Don't take God's name in vain. Number 3. Number 4. Zachor Yom Shabbat. Remember the day of Shabbat to make it holy. Later on, when Moses repeats the 10 commandments, that's what the Devar Malchut that we learned in the morning, there it doesn't say remember. It says preserve, shamor. So how was it? What did God say? It says he said them both at one time. Shamor v'zachor b'dibar echad. And also it says a person that transgresses the Shabbos will die, will die. Everything in Shabbos is doubled. Okay, we're going to look in this book, which is called Mitzvot Hashem, and we'll see exactly what are the implications of this commandment. But mainly, this commandment of remembering Shabbat means that you have to declare when Shabbat comes in, at least in prayer, but most do it on a cup of wine, that today is the holy Shabbat. Thank you, God. Say a sentence from the from the Torah. Zachoros Yom Shabbat Lakajo Sheshes Yamim. Hayachulu Hashemayim words. You make this what's called Kiddush. That's mentioning the day of Shabbat. Shabbat is very, very important because it commemorates that everything in the world is a creation. And God created it in 6 days. He also created 6 days. 6 days is also creation. God created time, God created space, God created spirit, God created everything. And he gave us 1 day to remember this, because the rest of the week we're involved in the creation. Interestingly enough, it is forbidden for a non-Jew to keep Shabbat. Forbidden. Even to make up a day on his own, Shabbat. Some opinions say that even to make up a day of rest is forbidden. I don't know if they have to have big rabbis that decide that, but in any case, it is forbidden for non-Jews to pick for themselves a day and say, this is the day of rest. We are observing God's day. Why? Because the Jews were given the special job to commemorate the Creator, and that He is the Creator of all creation. And anyone else who says that he was given the job is an imposter. What do we care? It's like a doctor that poses to be a doctor, but he's really not. So he looks like a doctor and he acts like a doctor until something serious happens, and then you realize that he's not a doctor. The same thing. A non-Jew that says he is the representative of God, and he's going to take God, he's going to make God famous, and he's going to advertise God. Well, he can't really do it because he doesn't really represent the product. He doesn't really represent God. So he's not going to be a real true representative. He himself is not going to be able to act the way that God wants. I mean, as it is, the Jews have trouble doing it, but a non-Jew for sure not. It's not inside of him. So Jews are given this job of bringing the oneness of God into the world. Show how God is involved in every change, every detail. That's Shabbat. There are Jews that that were willing to risk their lives, for sure, their income for Shabbat. There were a lot of Jews when they came from the old country, right? When they came from Poland or from Germany or from wherever, Russia. As they came to America, they came with families, and they refused to work on Shabbat. And the non-Jewish employers had no idea what type of a thing is this. You want to not work on Sunday? Nobody works on Sunday. Take Sunday off. It says no. So it says what you can do is you can find somebody else to take your place. They say that the Lubavitcher Rebbe used to work for the American Navy. He was a naval engineer, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he was helping the war effort. And that when you would go down to the offices on Sunday, no one was working except for the Rebbe. He would do all the work on Sunday. All the work, and on Shabbos he wouldn't come in. And there are other Jews like that. There were Jews there. I'm sure you'll find out your grandfather, somebody, risked everything for the sake of Shabbat. Shabbat is the Independence Day, the birthday of the Jewish people. Shabbat. That's what we have unique for all the other nations. Yud. Six days you should work and do all of your 6 days you should work and do all of your projects. Some people say that this is also a commandment, but in any case, 6 days you should work. But on the 7th day is Shabbat for God. Don't do any work. You, your son, your daughter, your servant, your maidservant, your animals, the ger chasher berecha, and the non-Jew which is in your gates. Oh, now what does this mean? Some people mistakenly say that a non-Jew that accepts on himself the 7 Noahide commandments is forbidden to keep Shabbat. That's not so. It means that a non-Jew is not allowed to do work for you, but he can work for himself. And the same as that's why it's put next to the animal. Just like an animal can do work for himself, but your animal is not allowed to work for you. So also The convert is not allowed to. Some people say this is talking about the convert, is talking about a Jewish convert. A Jewish convert is just like a Jew, full-fledged Jew, 100%, just like Moses. But some people say, no, this is talking about what's called a ger toshav. A ger toshav is a non-Jew that keeps the 7 Noahide commandments. And a non-Jew like that can live in Israel. A non-Jew that does not keep the 7 Noahide commandments cannot stay in Israel, even though he's the nicest person in the world. He's a wonderful guy, fellow of infinite jest. He cannot live in Israel. He can live anywhere else in the world that he wants. The world is a really big place. Israel is a very, very small portion of the world, and he can live anywhere he wants to, but not in the Holy Land. But a non-Jew that keeps the 7 Noahide commandments, which means no idolatry. There will not be one Christian allowed in the Holy Land. For sure not. No way. Christianity is idolatry. There's some forms where there are less idolatry, but in any case, only person allowed, a non-Jew, allowed to stay in the land of Israel is a non-Jew that accepts on himself the 7 Noahide commandments, the first of which is worship only God. No Son of God, Ghost of God, Spirit of God. Okay. It says even the small children, you have to educate them properly, says Rashi. Because 6 days God made the heavens and the earth, the sea, everything that's in it. And God rested on the 7th day. Therefore, God blessed the 7th day on the Shabbat, and he made it holy. Of course, God could have created the whole world in one instant, because God created time also. So God is not limited by time. Time is just a creation. But there is what's called the form of God, the sphirot. It says God made man in his image, right? Anyway, we'll talk what that means, but in any case, God made the world in 6 days. That corresponds to his 6 emotional aspects of God. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus, kindness, severity, balance, beauty, etc. Okay, so now we have finished how many commandments? 4. Here's the 5th. This is half. Honor your father and your mother. Oh, one second, yeah. Okay. In order that you will have long life on the land that God has given to you. Let's just go back a little bit over here. I wanted to show you something. Here is Yud Aleph. Yud. Orach Chaim says like this. The 7th day, this is the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. This is the Rav Chaim ben Atar. And he says like this. It says on the 7th day, God rested. On the 7th day, 1 second. 6 days you should do all your work, and on the 7th day it should be a resting day to God, your God. Don't do any work. Says the Orach Chaim. What does it mean? That you should make this 7th day to God. How do you do that? In this, you, so to speak, you make God that he is your power. Al derech, like the rabbis say, Ki shakul Shabbat, the Shabbat is equal to the whole entire Torah. It says a Jew that does not keep Shabbat, it's as though he worships idols. But not exactly, but pretty close. But ulai ki rom, a Jew that doesn't keep Shabbat cannot be a shochet. Also, a Jew that worships idols cannot be a shochet. That's the law, because Shabbat is equal to all of the Torah. It's like idolatry, because you're denying God. Maybe because this is hinted at, the whole Torah is hinted at in the word Shabbat. How so? The whole Shabbat is equal to the whole Torah. Why? There are 611 commandments that the Jewish people heard from God directly. Again, I'm sorry. There are 611 commandments that the Jewish people did not hear from God directly. They heard it from Moses. Only 2 commandments they heard directly from God, and then the Jews said, it's too much, we can't take it. The first of the first two of the 10 commandments they heard directly from God. Other 611 they heard from Moshe. These two commandments were, the first two commandments were commanded by Moses. Why do I do this? Sorry. I'm sorry. I just, for some reason, I just slip words. The first two commandments they heard from God. Anochi v'lo yelecha. That's the positive, which contains all the positive and negative commandments. And the rabbis already said that that the mitzvot, the positive commandments, are in the name of God. Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, mercy. And the negative commandments, they come from the severity of God. That's the name of God, which is Adoni, Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud. Okay, so if you add up Yud, Ke, Vav, Ke, which represents all the positive commandments that they heard, and Adoni, which is all the negative commandments that they heard, this comes out to be Tzaddik Aleph. Also, that's the gematria of Amen. So if you add up these two names of God, which correspond to the first two commandments they heard directly from God, Yud Ke Vav Ke is all the positive commandments, Aleph Daled Nun Yud is the negative commandments, and if you add that, these two first commandments they heard from God and the 611 that they heard from Moses, so we get the gematria of Shabbat. Also, we can say, it says in Masechet Shabbat, anyone who keeps Shabbat properly, even if he served idolatry, like Enosh, it says Toshev Enosh ad Daka, it's a sentence in Psalms. Even if he serves idolatry, like the generation of Enosh, that was like 1-2 generations after after Adam, as that all of his sins are forgiven. If a Jew transgressed even idolatry, that's a terrible sin. But if he keeps Shabbat properly, all of his sins are forgiven. And that's what it says, Yom Shavi Shabbat La Hashem. The Shabbat is to God in this way. When you make God your power and nothing else, so therefore you get forgiven all of your sins. In other words, you are keeping Shabbat means that you are verifying that you only believe in the Creator and that everything else is a creation. Also, when it says Shabbat LaHashem, it means that the day of Shabbat, that when you rest, it should be for God and not just for your own personal comfort. All right. Here we have an interesting Ramban. Is this right? Yeah. It says, Kain Barech Hashem et Yom Shabbat. God blessed the day of Shabbat and he made it holy. Omer Sheyeh Yom Shabbat Mavorech. What does it mean? The day of Shabbat is holy and blessed. Kitziva b'Sechira, because God said that when you mention the day of Shabbat, you should also bless it and, glorify it. Namely, that by means of keeping the Shabbat, that we become holy. By making the day of Shabbat holy, by not doing work in it. Rabbi Eliezer said that God blessed the Shabbat, that he gave us an extra soul on Shabbat from all of the other days. Okay, so those were the 5 first commandments. Let's do the second 5. Honor your father, your mother, in order that you should have long life on the land which God has given to you. If you honor Shabbat, then you get long life. If not, you don't. Not very nice. We'll see if we get to the Kli Yakar. We'll see if we can do it. Okay, now here we got the next 4 commandments are all bunched in together. Really biggies. Don't kill. Don't do sexual crimes. Don't steal. Don't give false testimony against your fellow man. Here, let's just do the Sifrono. The main thing is lo tin af, don't do sexual crimes. The main thing is talking about stealing somebody else's wife. Shu yoter murga, this is the more common, but really it means all of the other forbidden sexual activity, homosexuality, sex with beasts, with animals, with etc. Don't have to go into the sordid details. Next, don't steal. What is this talking about? Don't steal. Don't steal here explicitly means don't kidnap. This is talking about all of these commandments. These are commandments that if a person does not do it, there is a way that he is punishable by death. Worshipping idols, punishable by death. Not keeping Shabbat, punishable by death. Taking God's name in vain, punishable by death. All these things are punishable by death. What about stealing? Stealing is not punishable, but the only type of stealing that's punishable by death is kidnapping. But the fact of the matter is it says don't steal, simply meaning don't steal anything. Also don't steal money. Also don't cheat people. Don't, how do you say, trick people? Genevas das. Right? You sell your car and you say that the car was, perfect working order, something like that. And it's not. You just, fixed it up so that it'll work for another couple of days or weeks. But the main thing is, the main commandment is not to kidnap people. The Talmud said, also don't give false witness. What does it mean, don't give false witness? In general, this really means in court. You give false witness, means that you go and you lie in court. You get a person in trouble for something that he didn't do. But this also includes lying about people in general, or motzi shemra, or putting out a bad name about somebody. Right? Telling people how bad this guy is. And so like everyone's talking against political figures. That's really big deal. Right? Everybody figures it's okay to say bad things about political figures, 100%. Even if you don't have any proof, you don't have this. Even though that the main thing here is talking about in court. That's the main thing. See if we can do this here. All right, really, I can't hear. Let's see. The 10 commandments, they begin with the letter Aleph, Anochi, and the last one is with the with letter Chaf. And so that's what it means, Ach Tov Yisrael. Also, in the 10 commandments, there are 620 letters. Count them. 10 commandments, 620 letters, Hebrew letters, corresponding to the 613 commandments of the Jews and 7 commandments for the non-Jews. And that adds up together, keter, crown, to tell you that if person learns the Torah and he does it for the sake of God, then he puts a crown on his head. But if he does not, then it's koret, means he gets cut off, same letters. Also, how many letters, that's how many letters there are in the 600 in the 10 commandments. How many letters? 620. How many words are they? There are 172, which corresponds to Akev. Beka Logogolas. Okay, nice things, but let's not go too far because there's a lot of things that I want to do, and we don't have much time. Let's see if we can get this thing done here. I'll just go over quickly. The Kli Yakar says that the 5, we didn't get to the last of the 5. Don't desire your neighbors, your friends, anybody else's house, his wife, his servant, his maidservant, his ox, his goat, his donkey, anything that is friend. Why did it have to enumerate this? It's explained in different places why. But this is talking about just desiring in your heart. There's no even deed here. You're not supposed to lust in your heart for things that don't belong to you. You're not supposed to lust. Let's say you see your next door neighbor has a nice car. You go over to him and said, "That's a nice car. Is it for sale?" No, that's it. Leave him alone. You can't say, "What about 20,000? What about 50,000? What about this?" You're not supposed to have desires. You can say to him, "Listen, if you decide you want to sell it, you want to make a price, come to me and talk to me." But you're not allowed to express your lust for other people's properties. Okay, the Kli Yakar here, Rabbi Shlomo Milunchitz, he explains how it is that the first 5 commandments correspond exactly to the second 5 commandments. The first of the 10 commandments is I am God, corresponding to the 6th, okay? So in other words, number 1 corresponds to number 6. Number 2 corresponds to number 7, etc. The first 5 correspond to the last 5. The first 5, let's see, what is the first 5? The first one is worship God, believe in God. That corresponds to don't kill. Why? Because man is made in the image of God. And if you kill a person, it shows that you're not respecting the image of God. Conversely, if you don't really believe in God, it's not so hard for you to kill another person. Why? Because if you don't believe in God, then what do you think? What is God? Reality. What do you think is the ultimate reality? Yourself. So therefore, if somebody gets in your way or makes you feel bad, you can find it an option to kill him. So therefore, murder, the prohibition of murder, corresponds to the positive commandment of believing in God. Number 2, don't worship any idols. That corresponds to don't do sexual crimes. Why? Because worshiping other idols means you're uniting with something other than what you're supposed to be uniting with. Instead of uniting with God, you're uniting with some other power, whether because it makes you feel good. Well, that's the exact same thing as forbidden sexual crimes. You just do what you want because it feels good. But the fact of the matter is, it is destructive, just like you're going against the Creator by worshiping other idols. So you go against also the family if you have forbidden sexual relationship. If we're talking about somebody else's wife, for sure it's crazy, because it could be that lady will give birth to a child who is your child, and you don't know if it's your child or not. And you could even get married to your own daughter because you don't know that it's your own daughter. So therefore, don't have relations with somebody else's wife. It is showing unfaithfulness to your own wife. It's showing unfaithfulness, encouraging unfaithfulness by her. And this corresponds to being unfaithful to God, worshiping idols. Not only that, he brings that most idolatry usually comes from sexual desires. Now, this is forbidden for non-Jews also. Next, don't take God's name in vain. Also, one of the 7 Noahide commandments. Non-Jews are not allowed to take God's name in vain. One of the 7 Noahide commandments. Don't take, corresponds to not stealing. What does it mean not stealing? Because usually a person steals, so he's going to have to take, it'll force him to make a false oath in court. I stole, I swear I didn't steal. Remember the day of Shabbat. That corresponds to giving false witness. Don't give false witness to your friend. Not keeping Shabbat means that you're giving false witness. You're saying that there's no creator of the world. Jews are supposed to be the witnesses. They are supposed to be testify to the whole world that there's a creator, that God creates the world. If you don't keep Shabbat, it means that you're giving false witness. You're not willing to say the truth that God creates the world, and maybe you're also giving testimony that God did not create the world. Right? If there is a God, he doesn't create the world. So that's what Shabbat is supposed to be, and that corresponds to the prohibition of taking false witness. Honor your mother and father, which is the last of the 5 commandments, first 5 commandments. That corresponds to don't desire things that belong to other people. He gives a big explanation. He says like this, that if you as a father desire something else, especially somebody else's wife, so it means that when you have relations with your wife, you're thinking about somebody else's wife. So that being desirous means that in the end, you'll in the end not know who your real father is. And you'll also give children that your children won't give you honor. Because when you weren't, you're giving birth to yourself. Okay, let me say, I'm sorry. Children are influenced a lot by their parents' thoughts at the time they have the intercourse that gives birth to them. That's what it says in the Tanya. It says in the Tanya, what is the third chapter? The children are very, very influenced by the thoughts that their parents have when the children are given birth. It doesn't determine everything, but it's a very strong determinant. If the father is thinking lustful thoughts about other women or whatever, that he imparts that to the children, and is much less likely that his children will honor him. So because of the father's desires and lusts that he have, which that's the 10th of the 10 commandments, because of that, it gives birth to a lack of honor that he'll receive from his parents. Okay, that is the 10 commandments. Let's see if we can do this. I hope we can. Here's this book called Mitzvot Hashem. We talked about this a little bit. We could talk about it more. It lists the 613 commandments as they are according to the Maimonides. And it lists them according to the Torah portion that they're found in. So here we sort of generally talked about the first 4, honoring the Shabbat day, we talked about believing only in God, not believing in any idolatry, not giving false witness, right? I'm sorry, not taking God's name in vain. I'm sorry, not taking God's name in vain. That's the first 3. The 4th one is keeping the Shabbat day. Remembering Shabbat, make Shabbat holy by making Kiddush and a special day. Don't do any work on Shabbat. Like it says, Lo taseh kol malacha. It says in the 10 commandments, don't do any work. What are these work? Lamed tet avod malacha. These are the 49 root prohibitions on Shabbat that are forbidden. I'd like to spend more time on this, but we cannot for the lack of of time. We don't have much time, and I want to do the Haftorah also. So let's just do this quickly. Honor your mother and father, like it says, Kaved et avicha v'et imecha. How do you give them honor? By feeding them, giving them to drink, clothing them, etc. Says if you see that the father doesn't have something, you can actually force his children to feed them. With this commandment, you should stand up for him. You have to give him honor. Okay, those are the first 5 of the 10 commandments. Believe in God, don't worship idols, don't take God's name in vain, Shabbat, and honoring your father and mother. Also, a woman is obligated to honor her father and mother. But if her husband tells her not to, then she is absolved from that commandment. This is a commandment which is done everywhere and in all times. There are certain commandments which are only done in Israel. There's certain commandments which are only done in the time when there's a holy temple. But this commandment is done everywhere and at all time. Of course, a person that doesn't have a mother and father is not obligated. Okay, now we have the second set of commandments. Commandment number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. The last 5. What is the first? Don't kill people. Someone who kills someone else on purpose, the punishment is death by beheading. There's 4 different types of death which are applied according to the spiritual damage which is done by each and every crimes that are punishable by death. Okay. Details, more details. Commandment number 7. Don't have sexual relations with a married woman. Like it says, lo tinaf. Okay, a lot of details. Let's just do the beginning. Like it says, al isha eshet amitcha lo titen shechvachata. It says shachvacha, shechavtacha, and you're the friend of another person. In this case, talking about another Jew. You're not allowed to have relations. You can't have relations with a non-Jew in any case. If a person does this, it's also punishable by death, but this death is by choking. Okay, how is death by choking? We'll explain that later, but it's not important from now because there's no more death penalty now. There hasn't been for like last 2,000 years at least. And even when there was, it was almost impossible to implement it. Don't steal people. The technically means don't steal, don't kidnap a Jew. If you kidnap a non-Jew, he's not punishable by death. It's a crime, but it's punishable by death. All these are punishable by death, right? If they're in certain cases. In order to be punishable by death, you have to have proper warning. And they have to be proper witnesses, and the person has to do the sin immediately after the warning, and he has to be fully conscious of what he's doing. Okay, next, don't give false testimony. Like it says, al tanel be'ereacha eid shaker. What if you say something that's true, but you don't know it's true? For instance, your best friend, a big rabbi, comes to you and says, I just saw Beryl kill Shmerel. Go to court and testify. You say, are you sure? 100% sure. I just go and testify. If you testify, that's called giving false witness. It's not permissible to do a thing like that. You have to have seen it. Okay, next. Don't lust for things that other people own. Not his, don't lust, don't have this, like it says, lo techmad. This means in your heart. Namely, what? That the lust is in your heart. How can you punish a person for what's in his heart? And none of that, I mean, once in a while, you have a lust for something. You see a nice car, you see a nice, whatever it is, a motorcycle. Well, you did a sin, it's punishable by death. No, this means that you make some sort of an effort to take your thoughts into action. Of course, this cannot be, this itself is not punishable by death because you didn't do anything wrong. But if it brings you to do something, that something wrong does bring you to death. There's more commandments in this Torah portion, but those are the 10 commandments. Here's one of them: not to make the form of man. You're not allowed to make statues in your house. Big problem. Not supposed to make statues. King David and things like that, Michelangelo. You're not allowed to make a altar from stones that were that iron touched them. Like it says, in Mizbeach Avanim Taseli lo tivne oto gezit. Don't make it hewn out by metal. And the last of the commandments in this week's Torah portion, how many did I say that there were? There were 17, I said. That's what I said. So, a second, let me have a look over here. Here it is. Yes, 17 commandments in this week's Torah portion. The last of them is, if you have an altar in the Holy Temple, you cannot make steps to go up on it. Stairs. It has to be on a ramp. Okay, let us see if we can, let's see if we do this. Okay, we're going to try it. There we go. Oh, here it is. Ready? This is this week's Haftorah. The Haftorah from Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah is prophesying to the Jewish people this is right before the 10 tribes are taken into exile. And the Jewish people are doing some heavy duty sins. And let's see, here we go. Bishnat Mot Melech Uziyahu. When the king Uziyahu, one second. Am I doing this right? Let me just have a look over here. Yes. Okay, when the king Uziyahu died. Now, who was Uziyahu? Uziyahu was a king. He was also a sinner. And he was smitten with leprosy. So it says, not that he really didn't die, actually. A person that has leprosy is considered to be dead. So he got this, let's see, where is this whole, yeah. He was one of the kings of Yehuda, and the righteous kings. And he was okay, he was pretty good, but he was smitten with leprosy. And then everybody started to have this big relapse of Judaism. Uzziah. So he got leprosy, and meanwhile, here is Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah. Now, prophet Isaiah, he prophesied for a really long time, and in the end, he was killed. In fact, he was killed by his grandson. Huh? Yeah, he was killed by his own grandson. He was killed by Manasseh. Manasseh was an evil king, also of Israel, and he had him killed. This is pretty weird stuff over there. Okay. So he got, yeah, that's right. Oh, one second. How long did he prophesy? It says he prophesied for 86 years. 86 years he was a prophet. Huh? That's a pretty long time. So anyways, but it didn't come to such a happy end, but he must have been a very old when he was killed. Let me just have this Uzziah here. Why was it that he Uzziah? Here we go. 211, 215. Just one second here. Why did he get leprosy? I'm sorry. Oh, he was about. All of a sudden, Uzziah, he said that he wants to be the high priest. He went a little bit out of his mind. So he said he wanted to be the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, which he was not. He was not the Kohen Gadol. He was from the tribe of Yehuda. So anyway, so he wanted to do it. So anyway, he got this, and he died. He eventually got leprosy. He had leprosy for however 10 years, something like that. He was ostracized. He had to live in a house near the cemetery, and that's it. Okay, because he was a leper. So okay, let's go. In the year of the death, when Uzziah, when he got leprosy, there was all of a sudden, Isaiah got this vision. What's going on? Why doesn't this, this we go. Okay. Huh? No? Is something wrong over here? 1 second. Is this not? No, it should be working. All right, for some reason it doesn't work. In this Uzziah, says the prophet Isaiah, I saw God sitting on a throne, high and elevated. They say, what does this mean? That he saw the visions of the world of Atzilut as they're coming into the world of Bria, because that's the throne. Anyway, the end of his God's robe filled the palace. There were angels that were standing above him. Six of their wings to each one. Each one had 6 wings of these angels. Now it says that every angel is like 3 times as big as the universe, so or 1/3 as big as the universe. There's two different opinions. So you have a little of idea what type of a wild thing is this that he saw. With 2 of these 6 wings, the angels cover their face. With 2 of them, they cover their feet. And with 2 of them, they fly. I guess the middle ones. And the angels are calling one to the other and saying, holy, holy, holy. God of hosts. The whole world is filled with his glory. In other words, where is God found? In the earth. And this shook the pillars, and from this loud voice, and the house became filled with smoke. And I said, woe to me, because I've seen this, because I am an impure person, and among an impure nation I dwell. And he got punished because of this. You're not allowed to say bad things about the Jewish people, which from now on I'm going to stop doing it. I don't think I say bad things. I say bad things, maybe. I don't know. I hope not. Maybe once in a while the Israeli government, but not the people. Come on. All right, enough. Only good things. In any case, if Isaiah, so he said, I'm living among an impure people. I mean, they were. The fact doesn't matter. They were pretty impure. You know, they were doing all sorts of idolatry. I said, anyway, God didn't like it. So Isaiah said, what is going to be with me? I am impure. I said not nice things, and I have seen my eyes have seen the King of hosts, God. And it flew over to me one of these angels, and in his hand was some sort of pliers or something. No, a flaming coal, and he took it with the pliers from the altar, and he touched it on my mouth, and he said, "Here, I have touched this on your lips. Your sin has been taken from you. All of your transgressions have been redeemed." I mean, what type of transgressions could he have? If he was a prophet, he had to be a pretty pure person. But in any case, he was nowhere as pure as he wanted to be. And therefore, he got purified. And also he had to get purified because he said the Jewish people are a people of impure mouth. So anyway, here goes Isaiah. He says, I heard the voice, the sound of God. And he said, who shall I send? Who can go for us to reprove the Jewish people? And I said, here I am, send me. And God said, go. Say to these people that I have heard, you have heard, that these people have heard, they've heard the Torah, they heard what, and they don't understand anything. They've seen big miracles, but they have no knowledge. The heart of these people has become fat. Their ears have become heavy. Their eyes have become glossed over. They cannot see with their eyes, and they cannot hear with their ears. And their heart cannot understand and return back to be healed, to be forgiven all these sins. Just one moment. Right. What can I do? And I said, Isaiah said, how long is it going to be, God? How long is it going to be this way between me and you? And God, now you have to remember, this is the first temple, right? And God said, Asher im sha'u orim me'en yoshev. The cities will be uninhabited, totally desolate. Ubatim me'en adam. And the houses will be empty with no people. Vadama tish'a shemama. And the land will be unworked. It'll be, what it was called, desolate, wasteland. Barachak Hashem et adam. No person will come here. Rabba Azuva Bakir of Oretz, and the land will be abandoned. For Od Bo Assyria, that's going to be what's talking about the upper part of Israel, Shomron, and all where the 10 tribes lived. And that's the upper, that's the what's called Israel. There was 2 tribes. Israel was divided into 2. After the death of King Solomon, it divided into 2. So the upper 10 tribes, they were like real bad news. They were really sinning, and they'll be taken away. But Od Bo Assyria, and there'll be 10 more kings. V'shava b'hayasala ba'er. And after 10 more kings in the lower kingdom, where there was only Yehuda and Benjamin, they're going to last a little bit longer. They're going to last like another, 150 years or so. 10 more kings are going to rule, and then they're also going to be cleared out. The temple will be destroyed. Ke'ele v'ke'elon, like a tree and like a elm tree and like an oak tree. Asher b'shalacha matzeves bom zera kodesh. Asher b'shaleches, like an elm tree, like an oak tree, when all of the leaves fall off, as matzeves bom. Nevertheless, there still is the trunk and the roots are there. Zera kodesh mitzavtam. It says the holy seed will be the vitality of the land. And what it means is that the righteous Jews will come back and they will be the ones that will revive Mashiach, revive Judaism, revive Torah, revive the commandments. So what is Isaiah saying over here? Isaiah is like all the other prophets. It's the same prophecy we see in all the prophets. God is not going to leave the Jews alone, for good and for bad, for good and for not good. If the Jews sin, God is going to get them. He'll punish them. But God will never leave the Jews. God will never abandon his plan that all the Jews should be in the land of Israel. God will never forget that the Jews are his sons, his servants, his chosen ones, his priests, etc. And in the end, everything is going to be okay. Zera kodesh mitzah matzavta, as a holy seed will be the roots, the foundation of the Jewish people. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Tomorrow, God willing, we're learning a Sikha of the Rebbe. And hope to see you tomorrow morning, 8:15. Shalom ubracha.
Rabbi, thank you. It was a good class.
Thank you very much. Have a good Shabbos, Tavi.